Guys, the world of tech moves a mile a minute. I was just introduced to an incredibly powerful new tool for on-chain data analytics called SIM, and it can do so much more than just analytics. In fact, it's so powerful that it got me thinking, is this going to be the killer app that could destroy June? Let's find out. So I recently shared my experience of attending DuneCon last month and share some of the insights that I gained from the many excellent talks there. One of the things that I loved about this conference, and to be fair, it's something that I also got at DevCon as well, is that as you meet people and talk to them, you get introduced to lots of really cool digital resources and tools. And in today's world, given the pace at which everything is rapidly evolving, believe me, there's always stuff that you will not have heard of. Today, we're going to take a special look at just one such tool, which is a total game changer for on-chain data, and more importantly, what we can do with on-chain data. That tool is SIM, a development platform built by smlXL. They've commissioned this super psychedelic logo by this New York designer, which I fully endorse, but it's the tech we're here to talk about today. And just before we do, let me hold up my hand for a second and say that explaining this app will take me right to the edge of my current technical understanding, which is expanding all the time, but I'm not going to oversell myself here. I will gloss over some of the deep techno magic that makes this stuff work. But what I can say, rereading my carefully pre-prepared notes, is that smlXL have created a highly parallelized instrumented version of the EVM, an extremely performant and novel way of getting data out of Ethereum and EVM nodes. After going over that a few times, I figured out that what it means is that smlXL have cracked a new way of getting data out of blockchains at breakneck speed, near real time. And at the same time, they've also figured out how to interact with EVM nodes just as fast. And so what, you might say? And I fully agree with that sentiment. I found this a little too abstract to get my head around at first until I actually saw what smlXL are building on top of these capabilities with SIM. Right here, we have a shot of their landing page. So you can see that they're saying, think it, build it, ship it fast. Focus on your product, not your infrastructure. So I'm optimistically interpreting this as meaning that a deep appreciation of the techno magic we were just talking about isn't needed here. Now, in the background there, we can see a screenshot of the app, but you'll be forgiven for not knowing that that is what it is when you first look at it. And even now that I've told you that it's the app, that won't help you much. We're going to need to take a closer look in order to really begin to understand this. And luckily, you and I can do just that by opening an account with SIM. The website is sim.io. Let me give you a live demo now. Okay, so we're now looking at the sim.io website. Once you've opened an account, to get started, click on Start Building. And this takes you to the studio, studio.sim.io. And this loads up a place where you can see your saved projects. And right at the top here, you're given access to these demo canvases that show you some pre-made builds for you to start getting a sense of what this platform is and how it works. Now we're going to take a look at this first one here, the simple API. But if we open that up, we're going to see a lot of information that can create some overwhelm. So instead, what I'm going to do first is recreate this simple API from high level using some of their tooling. And that will help you understand, I think, how this design framework and canvas works. So let's go down here and create. We could also click there, start a new canvas. And we have this blank space. It's a canvas. And what's popping out here on the left are a bunch of items. These are the different components that we can leverage, that we can use to build the solution. So right at the top here, we have data source. And what you do here is you click on it, you drag it, and that creates this tile here, which is also movable on the canvas. So we can call this something data source 1. We can label it anything. And you see here, we have a drop-down menu. We can select which chain we want, Ethereum base. This is on a limited sort of release at the moment. Of course, we're going to get more chains eventually. And we can put in the block numbers, say 17 million to 17,100,000 or something. Those are the values on the demo. I'm not just randomly picking that out. Okay, so let's think about our design problem again. We want to build an API, and the API is going to take some specified data from the blockchain and then serve it through an API that we can then query, to load into a database, to drive a dashboard, to do other things with it, who knows. So right here on the canvas, we have where that process begins, which is us specifying the data source. The next thing we would need to do is decide what data we want. And that turns out to be handled by this component here, the EVM Lambda. We would add some code to this to specify what data we want to pull from our data source there. And we can then actually link these two modules together. We can play here. I haven't played with that feature yet, but you can sort of run this and you can see that I move it there and the link stretches and moves around. I love this kind of stuff. Anyway, after we've decided what data we want to pull from our blockchain, what operations we want to do from it, the next step is to decide how it's going to be structured. So for that, we pull out the schema component here, and this allows us to sort of define a schema, right? This is like giving our, setting the number of columns, what they're called, that sort of thing. And again, we can create a link here. And once we have a schema, we can sort of decide how it's stored. We can use this persistence component and save it there. And then once we have all of this, we finally have this API component here where we would specify the data that we want to expose in the API and how we call it, what URL we give it, and so on. So at a high level, this is a very simple thing. And I've just shown you how we pull these different components in to kind of explain how this works at a high level. Let's now look at the actual demo example that they've given us, which I've got open here. And you can see that this is now loaded with extra data information. See here, we had that weird block range of 17 million. And here if we go into the EVM Lambda, this opens up a view into the code that's running it. If we close this, we step back out into the canvas view. Here in the schema, we see that we've defined the fields. We have the transaction hash, the block number, the token address, the account address, the value. So we're only going to have like these 6 columns being pulled out of this blockchain data. And we give this a table name here, ERC20 balance changes. So we're just tracking balances here. And then I really like this. The API here, we have the URL endpoint here, the canvas ID. If we want to reference this in some other sim builds that we're creating, some other canvases. And here we can actually put in type SQL query directly into the module, into the code, into the tile itself to define what it does. And I think that's just super, super cool. And yeah, so that's an overview of this framework. You can see what I really like about this is the visual element of showing how it allows us to sort of containerize different components, has this sort of Lego approach where different modules do different things and they have different containers for it. And yeah, if your project gets big or complex, these links help you sort of see how it all threads and connects together. So what's so great about all this? Why am I excited about it? I totally get that even with this demo, the whole thing can still feel pretty abstract. And it's certainly taken me more than a minute to begin to really appreciate SIM's potential. But essentially, this is a design platform for creating all kinds of data-driven apps that use blockchain data. And the data flow isn't limited to being one way here. SIM gives us features that allow us to interact with the nodes and call smart contract functions, which include functions that alter blockchain state. SIM potentially allows us to perform much more advanced data logic off-chain that is able to then drive much more performant and sophisticated responses to on-chain events. And those actions could be on-chain or off-chain themselves. And thanks to this highly parallelized techno magic that's at the heart of all of this, it can all happen blazingly fast. And that is what changes this from simply being a cool idea into something that's actually production worthy, even for time-sensitive blockchain protocols with the highest financial and economic stakes at risk. Now, I think this is also exciting from an economic design perspective, as this creates a much more accessible platform for developing and implementing richer and more sophisticated economic and financial logic without the gas and compute constraints of the EVM environment. That could open the door to lots of interesting applications and designs, and ultimately, we may only need to submit a proof of calculation in order to continue providing transparency on-chain to users. So that's why I think all of this is genuinely a big, big deal. So now that we've seen just how revolutionary and powerful SIM is, let's get back to our title slide and ask, is SIM going to destroy Dune? Well, we don't need to seriously engage with this question because Dune just bought smlXL, including all its IP and SIM, and it was the major closing announcement of their reveal-loaded keynote speech, which I covered in that earlier video. Now, while it isn't exactly clear how these two platforms are going to merge at this stage, at a minimum, Dune is going to be using the same engine that sits at the heart of SIM for its new developer service called Dune Echo, which they also unveiled in that presentation. After that, perhaps some or all of the SIM design experience is going to be integrated into Echo as well. But this is what Frederick Haga, the CEO of Dune, had to say on the day, that we should expect on-chain data that is real-time, deep and flexible, multi-chain, suitable for creating production-grade APIs, and able to stream real-time into any database. All of that sounds pretty good to me. If we look at this from the point of view of Dune's corporate and product strategy, I think these are bold and smart moves to make. The on-chain data space is becoming increasingly competitive with lots of new players coming in all the time, and it's fundamentally a service that's pretty hard to defend. These announcements show that Dune is making a bold move to claim a distinctive niche by creating solutions for developers of data-driven apps. That feels like it could be a much more defensible and sustainable business segment than continuing to develop a straightforward analytics platform. And of course, these choices also align with the values and vision that this company strives to uphold while opening up vast and exciting new opportunities. Dune are clearly committed to continuing to break new ground. I'm going to be very excited to see what comes out of this new technology stack and the new community following that grows alongside it. And who knows, maybe I'll be using some of these amazing new features for myself too.